Hi and welcome to AXSchat. I think the regulars will recognise our guest today. It's Aidan Parr, who is both UK AT News and appears on AXSchat weekly as UK AT Dyslexia. So welcome, Aidan. It's great to have you here. It's wonderful to have a member of the community with us today. So can you tell us a little bit about how you first got into AT? I know you've been working in the field for quite some time, but what it was that got you started?
I started because I did electronics at university. I did a degree. Oh, thank you for inviting me, Way. I'm flattered.
Oh no, it's our pleasure.
And I started fixing communication aids. So it's 20 years in October. And I basically did a bit of phone support, and I sat there with my soldering iron and cleaned up devices that had been damaged or whatever. But I've always got this from birth, I think, is this why. I'm always eternally curious about things. And one of the things was the way that people with disability who use communication aids were treated, the assumptions that were made. Remember that I'm only a technician at that stage. And the reaction for most people was, you don't really need to worry about that, Aidan, but I'm interested. And I worked for them, and I worked in computer access, and I worked for another couple of companies. And I had a fantastic opportunity to do a master's at King's College London in 2003. And that was, my logo for UK AT Dyslexia is the sort of head exploding with ideas. That was where it all really kicked off. That was where I really got to do a bit about communication, posture and seating, wheelchairs, access, the social model, all these wonderful things that you're very aware of, and most of the people here, will know about too. And it got me more excited and more interested, and also very lucky to get the chance to work for a charity called FAST, the Foundation for Assistive Technology. And I had one day, and one of the other guys on the course had another day. And after 3 weeks, he said to everybody, I'm bored with this. I don't like this. It's sitting in front of a computer all day. And I went, I'll have your day. So I ended up working 2 days a week for FAST. And it got me knowing about everything from brain-computer interfaces to wheelchairs to adapted cutlery for people with arthritis. To me, it's all the same. That ability to access information about all these things. And I've gone on from there, tried to do other things. But it's my passion for information. And I think there's a real problem that Joe and Jane Public, the man in the street, the woman in the street, aren't able to easily access information in the way that they want it. So a couple of years ago, set up UK AT News. Unfortunately, FAST closed down because the government pulled the funding, and that's the way that it seems to be going. So I set up UK AT News. It's a subscription website, so it's £25 a year, $40, $35, whatever. I don't actually think I'm stinging anybody, and I do any bit of useful information I can get goes onto that website. But we've talked before, I think, about fake news, and I don't tend to believe that it's useful, helpful to build anybody's hopes up that technology or medical discovery is immediately going to cure ALS or motor neuron disease or whatever. And that sort of news doesn't appear on my website. So reproducible, authentic, helpful, it's in. Otherwise, not a chance. And that's really what I'm about, is information.
Okay, Deborah, I know you've got a question.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, and I apologize. I have a little bit of cold going on here in the US. But Aidan, first of all, I didn't know that you had that service, that paid service. And so I want to subscribe. So one thing we want to make sure is that all of AXSchat knows that we can subscribe and get this really good information, at the same time support what you're doing. So let's make sure that we get the URL out on the website and talk about it tomorrow. But definitely I want you to send it to me, because I'm going to subscribe, because that kind of content is very valuable. But I know, and I hope you don't mind me going in this direction, Aidan, I just feel like you have been so powerful to our community. And I haven't met you in person. I haven't met Neil or Antonio in person. Hopefully we're going to do that pretty soon, maybe at the Funka conference. Yeah. But I feel like you're a good friend of mine, Aidan, and you've been really a good friend to AXSchat. So I'm just really honored that you are being featured today. But we were talking before before we went live about your father, who has multiple, you know, opportunities, you know, disabilities, dementia, and things like that. And my father-in-law recently, he passed a couple weeks ago. It was very sad for our family. And as my father-in-law aged, like all of us, he did start losing his hearing. He became deaf. He had severe mobility issues. He had all these different things that I knew that assistive technology could help. And I know, excuse me for the long comment, but I know that Neil has walked some of these paths, and he might want to talk about this as well. But I remember one time sitting on an airplane, and this woman and I started talking. She asked me what I did, and I explained it. And she said, oh, my father just had a stroke, and we don't know what to do, and we don't even know where to go. And I see this over and over again. It's like my husband and his brothers were so frustrated that they couldn't really effectively communicate with their father, since he lived in Florida and they lived in other states. And so, you know, what do we do about this? How do we get the assistive technology into the hands of people that need it as they're aging? It seems like we're doing a better job of getting it into the hands of people that are younger, but not into our aging population. Comment.
No, I mean, that's very valid. I mean, my father, just to say, my father is profoundly deaf. He has macular degeneration, so his sight is not so good. He also has Alzheimer's. He also, my problems with memory, as I'm neurodiverse, as you know, dyslexic, as many of you know, I think I got a lot of that from my father as well. So he has quite a lot of issues to battle, and to be unfair to him, he's a pain in the neck. But to be fair to him, the frustration of having to communicate and get ideas across, is unbelievable. It's a major obstacle to him. And one of the difficulties I saw with my parents, who are now in their late 80s, is that they have no idea that any of this stuff exists. Right. There's been quite a lot of research done in the UK, particularly, where they've looked at why younger people seem to be aware. They have their smartphones, they have their laptops, they have their Kindle Fires, whatever. They know about all this, but they still don't know about this technology, this assistive technology, this telecare, pendant alarms, fall detectors. It doesn't come into their thinking at all. So I tried to do some work for this for FAST probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and we got the funding when you could get funding from government, and we produced this course, and I wrote it. And the response from the charities wasn't that we tried to do the work with, wasn't so great. And one of the problems is the charities don't know either. Right. And that's not an insult to people, professionals that work at charities. They're trying to juggle rather a lot of different things, like, you know, raise money, provide other services, provide assistive technology. And there's largely a barrier to people acquiring information, whether you're an individual, a carer like I am, whether you're older, or whether you're a professional working in health or social care or a charity. I've got my own little ideas about how that could be helped. So in April, I'm going to run my first course in Nottingham, and this will be 30 people, 30 older people and carers. And for half the day, we're going to look at technology. And we're not going to be doing assistive technology or this is a fall detector. I'm going to show them an Amazon Echo. I'm going to show them remote controls televisions. I'm going to challenge them. I like Socrates. I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to make you think. So I'm going to challenge some perceptions of technology. It'll last about 4 hours. And then in the afternoon, there will be music and dancing and food. And I'll get somebody to come in that help them with their eye, you know, check their eyes and their hearing, take away lots and lots of information. If that becomes successful, I'll run that once a month. If it becomes bigger, obviously I'll want to work with other organizations to do it. I want to do it in that very unique way what do you want to do? Who are you? Where are you? What do you want to do? What's the obstacle? And then when they get to the stage where they may need that, they're an informed population of people. I don't want that. I want it in purple. I want it with glitter. I want the way I want it. And I don't think that that is a problem for professionals or companies to have an informed population that go, this is what I'd like, please. So if I can do it, hopefully, and I'll share that learning quite widely as happily, to anybody that wants to join in or contribute or throw their own ideas in. But at the moment, it's my way. I'm doing it my way to see how it works or if it doesn't work.
I love the idea.
So yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I agree with you that the approach is likely to work. Like Deborah, I've worked with older relatives who would have and still can benefit greatly from using aids and assistive technologies and simple mobility, even simple mobility aids, and there is the reticence to do anything that might consider marking them as disabled.
Yes. Yeah.
When actually it's the attitude that's disabling, because these tools are enabling, and that's the weird thing that I find very difficult to understand is these things will make your life easier and make the lives better of all of the people around you, and if anything, make you seem less disabled to the surrounding community because you're able to be independent.
Yeah.
But you view it as something flagging you up as disabled, so you would rather, for instance, sort of not be able to do stuff because you feel that it stigmatizes you. And I think that that's a really difficult thing to overcome, but the way that you overcome it is probably the way that you're talking about, which is tapping in to an individual's interests and needs and finding something that really drives them to want to grasp technology or grasp what they're doing, rather than trying to force them. I know that we had a real battle and to get my father to accept a blue badge.
Yes.
Which now it's great. Now we've overcome that hurdle. Now it's it's an accepted part of life. But it was a long thing. A blue badge, Deborah, and for our American colleagues, is actually a badge that you put in the car if you have a disability and mobility issues that enables you to park anywhere. It's a disability parking badge, a permit, effectively. Antonio, I know you've got a question.
No, it's an interesting point to bring day-to-day devices to the room and to help people to use them. I did some training in the past with a group of people, and what I found is in the beginning is almost like you need to let them be comfortable with the space that they are in. No, they need to feel that they are, no, this is a very comfortable place. Nobody is here to impose me something, and I can ask questions about what my needs are. And from the moment that you start in that way, they are more open to ask questions and to talk more about what they need. And then the fact that you are able to mix, the fact that a session where they are able to have fun and dance, mixing the two, bringing the social side is very interesting, because I remember that my group, after the training session, they used to go and have a cup of tea and spend there talking of ours. So the social side, I think it's very interesting to explore when you are doing that type of work.
Well, I'm going to take this approach. So I've got an Amazon Echo. I've used my mum as a guinea pig, actually.
Me too.
So I tried the Amazon Echo with my mum, and she didn't really take to it. She likes it if I talk to Echo. But what I did was I did a blog on my website. I just velcroed an old phone, and periodically it tells her to do things, and it comes out. So I play music, the lights come on, the lights go off. It reminds us to say our prayers and get up, have a drink of water, and so on. And the fascinating thing about it is she saw me doing this, for about a month, and then I tried her with the phone. And at 5 o'clock, the light goes on to help her wake up from her afternoon nap. And I heard this little voice go, "Alexa, turn the light off." So she was actually taking control of this. She was actually starting to learn.
Devices matching that name.
Oh, sorry, I've got
Which one did you want?
I've set up Alexa here. So she has started to take a little bit more control.
I found several devices matching.
Sorry
that
about
name.
this.
We have an extra guest.
Alexa, that's right. Alexa is on our interview. We all know Alexa.
This is the downside of technology, obviously, when you try to demo it live. But what I'm going to do is, on this event, I'm going to show this to them. You're quite right, Antonio. Right from the start, I'm going to say, whose life is it and who's in charge? It's not me, it's you. Absolutely. I always do this. They're there with the stiff shoulders. And I usually say, please don't think this is school, because I wouldn't be here either. And they laugh and then they relax. The shoulders go down. So I'm gonna ask them about them. What do they know? And what's their favourite piece of music? And while they're off having their coffee break, I'll create the playlist for them to be dancing to later. So they will be amazing in everything that is done in that day. So you need people to feel appreciated. You feel people to be wanted. When you do that to them, they feel more happy to learn. They feel more inclusive.
Right. You're engaging with them, Aidan. You're engaging with them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's my job to be the person that says, I know about technology.
Right.
You're the one that's got the expertise about who you are and what you want to do. Don't accept anything from anybody if you don't want it. What's the point?
Aidan, I love this approach that you're taking, and I know that my mom feels, and my mother's a very smart woman, and she feels really stupid when it comes to technology. And so I actually got an Echo for my husband for Christmas, because my husband he's walking a path where it's hard for him to remember certain things. And so I got him that, and then I realized how much it would benefit my daughter. So then I bought my daughter a little Echo Dot, the smaller one, and sometimes she gets frustrated, like you were saying, your mom did, in that she wants me to talk to Alexa, the Echo, instead of her doing it herself, because I find, Alexa's still new, it's artificial intelligence, but sometimes Sarah uses too many words and Alexa gets confused. And so just learning the technology, but how do we, what I've often heard, my dad said it to me and my mom says it, I'm too old to learn. And of course, I don't believe that. There's some kind of, I think sometimes as we get older, sometimes it's probably not just old age, but I think we sometimes think we must be stupid because we're not as good at technology as the younger kids. And it just seems to be really prevalent across cultures.
I mean, I put my research hat on quite a bit for some of this, and I looked at aging, that idea that as you get older, that you're less capable of learning. And actually, that's not really true. And this idea of chronological age isn't as relevant as almost your attitude age. So you can get people in their 30s who just won't do it. We tend to assume that younger people are these digital natives. That isn't necessarily true either. So I expect when I meet a group of 30 older people that there'll be 2 or 3 of them who just will go, I don't want to do this. I also expect when I do a bit of training with people who've got autism or some of the other hats I've got, I expect 2 or 3 of them in the room to go, I'm not doing this. I think it's part of human nature. Right. And the trick is to engage people. So when I get older people in the past who've said to me, I'm no good at technology. So what I jokingly say, in the United States, I think they call it a ringer. Where you get your washing, your laundry, and you get the water out of it. A mangle, they call it in the UK. And I show them a picture of a ringer or a mangle, and I say, tomorrow morning I'm coming round your house, and I'm going to take your washing machine away, and you're going to be back to using a wringer or a mangle to do your laundry. They start very quickly telling you how much they value this piece of technology called a washing machine. And I sort of say to them, it's all a joke, it's all fun. That, yeah, but it uses electricity and it's got all these buttons and it's complicated and it's confusing, and sometimes a repairman has to come and fix it. Stick with the wringer or the mangle, you'll be fine. And they start to tell you, same with the remote control for the television, same for the electric kettle, same for the telephone. And then you start saying to them, haha, you are quite good at technology. You know what you want and you defend what you need. And then they start to feel better about themselves. The shoulders, they're more confident and capable.
Right.
And then we talk about strategies that they adopt when they go to buy a washing machine or they go to buy a kettle. You talk to your friends, you look at reviews in the newspaper. Now, the problem that we've got in assistive technology is, where do you get your reviews from? Where do you get your information from?
Right.
That's where ordinary people in the street will be slightly intimidated by the technology, but they don't really know who to talk to. That's the barrier at the moment.
I think once we comment about the fact, today we have this labels on most of our electric products. We're able to identify how much they will save you on energy. I think it'll be interesting to have something that will be able to identify how accessible that washing machine is. I think we are at the stage that it will be perfectly possible to implement something like that to facilitate the acquisition of products for people who have who want them something that they can use, that they can easily use.
Well, yeah, going on from that, well, we saw some of that when we interviewed Gary Updates, the guys from the Mobile Manufacturers Forum. They were gathering data on the accessibility of mobile and tablet devices, and what you're not going to get is it's going to be 100% accessible for all, but what you will get is the number of features that certain cohorts will find useful. So making that information available would be really good. I think where it gets difficult is, like discussion with Sabine Lerbnig, was the idea that you can put all of that information on the side of the box, because given the range of disabilities we've got and the range of different features, you need a very big box. But I think it's a really valid point. To hear what you're doing for NIDEX, Aidan, because I know you're going to be there. It's a big technology show focusing on accessibility and assistive technologies in Birmingham in a couple of months' time, and I know you're going to be there.
And I heard the word IoT somehow. And I heard the word IoT somehow related with some of the work that we're going in there.
Yeah. We love the IoT.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was looking at NADEX. I just got approached by them a couple of months ago, and they said we want to do some seminars on assistive technology, and I said, yeah, I'm up for it. And I'm not particularly interested in just me for an hour going blah blah blah, boring, but I do know these people within assistive technology and accessibility. Molly, what you'll know.
Yes.
And I got to know Molly really through AXSchat and just so Molly is very full on and very young and very vibrant and interesting and forceful, and she can show very clearly how assistive technology has helped her in a particular. We've got somebody, Sarah Todd, from a company called Brain in Hand, who I do some work for. They have an app for people with autism or brain injury or anxiety.
Okay.
So I go out and do some training for them, and it's basically I sit down with people, do an hour, a couple of hours with them, look at strategies that will help them be more independent, deal with things when things go wrong. So Sarah will be talking a bit about Brain in Hand for people for independence. There's a guy called Paul Doyle from Hereward College, and Paul's worked in assistive technology probably about 22, 25 years. these are people. It's like a tertiary college. People, they have fairly profound physical disabilities, and they want to get the skills and the training and the education, the technology they need to go on to university or into life. So we're hoping between the four of us, we've got this multifaceted idea of what assistive technology is. I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more about the do-it-yourself side. So without selling anything, I've been messing around with these sensors.
Okay.
And they, I've been trying my parents out with them. So heat, humidity, door open, movement, and it costs. I think I got them from America about $160 for the lot.
Okay.
I think it's quite affordable, and I'll do a blog about it sooner or later. But what the entire focus of the four of us will do our individual little bits. But the whole idea is we all know this stuff, but the outside world doesn't. How can we? I'm like a cracked record with this, by the way.
That's an important topic. Go ahead, Neil.
Oh no, I'm also going to be at NADEX, so I think there's a change of people running it this year, and they seem to have really got of it, and they've seems to be a really good amount of interesting stuff at the show. So I'm quite looking forward to coming along and seeing some new stuff and getting hands on. So, but it sounds like what you're doing is really interesting. Showing the power and showing the different perspectives, and absolutely, Molly's a powerful advocate. She definitely knows what she wants and knows how stuff works, and is quite clear in communicating that. I'm going to be on a much drier topic, talking about AT and enterprise and big business and so on. But it's an important area where we're enabling people to work.
I'd say that's not a dry topic at all, Neil, because I worked for other people for 30 years or more.
Chef,
and
exceeded upper temperature limit.
Sorry, I've got the sensors going off everywhere. And I basically worked for other people for 30 years. And I have dyslexia that wasn't diagnosed till I was 42. I've got to say, on the whole, I had a fairly miserable experience as a neurodiverse person working as an employee.
Yeah.
60% of it might be me, 40% might be them. Who knows? But I found that if I'd had people that were a little bit more understanding of why is this kid who's clever at this and a bit useless at that, why is it that he's always challenging the way that we do it and he wants to do it in different ways? Why is it when you tell him things, sometimes he forgets? And these are just examples of, and it was, Aidan is oppositional, Aidan is difficult, Aidan needs a lot of work to help him, Aidan isn't as clever as he thinks he is, sort of attitude. I was lucky that when I worked for FAST and other organisations that they understood particularly what I was up against, and I got just that tiny little bit of support, and that's all I wanted. So what you're doing, Neil, in letting people know about technology, let's say my definition of assistive technology isn't just technology, it's also services.
Okay.
Support.
Yes.
And adequately trained people. If you can encourage people to do that, get a gold star from me.
Well, that's the aim, and it's part of a holistic thing, really, where we're not just talking about delivering the technologies, but also within our organisation we have our diversity initiatives, and a large part of that is employee enablement as well. So we have networks. So we have Atos Adapt, which is the employee disability network, where we have a number of people that will act and act as representatives on behalf of other employees and take stuff up with management, and it's a very powerful thing. And we've got some really good sponsors within the organisation. So we've got senior execs supporting this now, and what that's created is an atmosphere where change is able to happen. Yeah. And where people are feeling much more comfortable in being able to talk about their differences, and difference being something that we're actively welcoming rather than something that is frowned upon. And I think that that's where I think, you know, a couple of years difference between you and me and age has acted to my advantage, in that I think that those things have changed over time. It's not that they weren't there at school, because I encountered the same Neil is a daydreaming dilettante, he only does the stuff that interests him kind of thing, and I was late diagnosed too. So yes, I got called lazy and feckless and all of the rest of it. But I think that the attitude in the workplace has changed over time,
Yeah.
and that it is an awful lot better now than it was when I first started, and it's certainly an awful lot better than when I was at school. And we want to continue to change that, and it's really important that, like, people like yourself and like me and like the other people on AXSchat continue to talk about it and continue to be open. And I think the openness is really important so that people can understand it and communicate. And if we don't communicate, then we can't expect people to engage us and understand us. So what you're doing in talking about the difficulties you have, but also your strengths, is also really important.
Yeah.
It should be commended.
But this is a type of topic that still surprises a lot of people. So sometimes when I share information about the initiatives that we are having in terms of having different communities at work, that focus in different areas of diversity and neurodiversity, I still have a number of messages where people are telling me, "Oh, what you guys are doing is that's very interesting. Nobody's ever mentioned that's something new. You know, how can I do that in the place where I work?" And sometimes I end up over the time I end up being people who pay a lot, starting to pay more attention to a lot of information that I share online, could be on Twitter or on Facebook, just because they want to know what we are doing at the workplace, and they want to somewhat to find ways how they can use that to implement at their own workplaces. So even if we are doing something very interesting, there's a lot of work to do out there, you know, and I think it's important that we're able to share this type of information to others, sometimes to inspire them or to help them to implement this in the journey that they have to proceed.
Yeah.
I mean, as Neil said, I'm a right old fogey, not older than him. My experience is
a couple of years
of old foginess then. And I started 20 years ago in assistive technology, and I was very excited to bring home a communication aid and show it to my family and my friends. I said, "Look at this," and it talked. You know, the deck voice that Stephen Hawking still uses, and they all said, "Oh, this is exciting. We've never seen anything like it before. You're the only person that we know that talks about things like this." And 20 years later, I say, bed sensors, people falling out of bed in hospitals. So I had a friend who worked doing a radiologist taking x-rays. And he said, a lot of the people that I do x-rays are older people that fall out of bed in hospital. And I said, "Don't they have bed sensors?" And he went, "What's a bed sensor?" "Aidan, you're the only one that talks about this sort of thing." So 20 years later, and the reason I sometimes come across as being a little bit negative is because I've been sort of battling away to try and raise this awareness. And unless we collaborate together in our little areas, our little niches, we won't raise that awareness in the population. So I'm glad you're all doing it in your own way. It's how do we do it a little bit better? And it's not the amount of effort we're putting in, it's how cleverly we're doing it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Still a lot of work to do. Yep.
But I do think that the power of what we're doing, the community that we're building, is a great way to get that effort out. So as you mentioned, you met Molly through AXSchat. We know that Mark Maguire has teamed up with people as a result of what we're doing, and that's really gratifying, because what we're seeing is stuff, you know, happening, and we're acting as a catalyst for building those communities, and that's gratifying. But it's the people that are taking part that are doing the work. It's fab.
Yeah. And I've got to say, from my experience, if I come across sometimes as a bit negative and a bit, because I've been around the houses a bit, it is the most exciting thing to be involved in, to see people given a service, something, and then if they turn around to me or any of you and say, I don't need you anymore, that's the biggest kick in the world. No more dependence. I'm going off to do what I like. That to me is the most gratifying, wonderful thing you can do for anybody.
I agree.
Agreed. I think it's one of the most satisfying aspects of the job.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much at the end of our half hour, so it's been a great chat. I think we're going to have some fun on Twitter later on, so it's going to be really good. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.